row, George.
So there was something that went down. An audit of how the Reedy Creek District Board had sort of conducted themselves in relation to Disney, and how Disney had conducted themselves as well in relation to the board, so on and so forth. And it's looking really bad for Disney. In fact, it reiterates things we have said. We said it looks like self-dealing. We've said it looks like bribery. We said it looks like they should be getting absolutely sued out the wazoo. And there you go. It's quite crazy, to be honest. It is it's an interesting one. So Disney's Reedy Creek tenure called akin to bribery, which is, I mean, literally, we said it was self-dealing, didn't we? We sat here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wasn't it on one of their? It was on one of their shareholder calls, wasn't it? When they were like, we give the Reedy Creek this, that, and blah blah blah. And we're like, sorry, what? You're fucking doing that? What are you doing? Why are you admit? Didn't we even say you've just got yourself in shit? You shouldn't have admitted that. I'm pretty certain we did.
Yeah.
Like, crazy times. So what happened, ladies and gents in the chat? Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board, which is the new, it's the replacement board for the Reedy Creek Improvement District Council, basically, is set to, they've considered it, so we've got the update, but it was a scathing report commission that calls the media giant's actions during its time in control over the area where Walt Disney World is located akin to bribery, and it is. I don't know how you can deny it, really. So the 90-page document, loads of allegations. They've had the meeting. They, they approve it basically. But there's loads of stuff like Reedy Creek were given the Reedy Creek board were given season passes, loads of perks, just mental stuff that they were done.
And they admitted to this stuff.
They admitted to it freely anyway.
Yeah.
Like, well, Bob has kind of put themselves in this position because he keeps talking about the Reedy Creek District like it's part of Disney.
Yep.
Right. Like, and it's technically supposed to be two separate entities, and I'm sure they'll get into that here.
Yeah, so it says this. What is now evident is that Disney not just controlled the Reedy Creek Improvement District, but did so by effectively purchasing loyalty. The vast majority of employees at the RCID were working hard to do their jobs and were diligent in doing so. Nonetheless, because of their decisions made by RCID management and the board of supervisors, their work was tainted with the appearance of impropriety. As comprehensively documented within for years, the company treated district employees like Disney employees by, for instance, providing complimentary annual passes and steep discounts, benefits and perks that were akin to bribes. Not surprisingly, then, the district's employees believed that it was their job to prioritize the interests of Disney, which is not what their job is. So the report says control over the inner workings of the district was exercised in additional ways. For instance, contract offers only went out to an approved list of bidders. That's not appropriate. Not only was there no way for new businesses to enter the mix, no mechanism existed to determine whether the district was receiving the services rendered at fair market prices. So that's like, it's wasting public funds. Not only that as well, if there's an approved list, who approves the list? Disney. So how are they getting on the list? Again, like it's a wash. And a Disney spokesperson called the report an exercise in revisionist history. Of course they did, because they're idiots, but they can't because they literally admitted to half of this stuff. There's more things, but Culture, were you just clearing your throat? What did you want to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought I muted. My bad.
Oh, right. Never mind. But there was a lot more stuff, wasn't there, than just that? It was quite a lot of stuff. Culture, do you want to give it a quick run through?
Well, I mean, look, Andrew over at Legal Mindset did a great job breaking it down, but essentially he counted more than 12 criminal things that they did. Their bidding process, as you mentioned, was incredibly corrupt. They also formed a group of vendors that were women and minorities that would receive preferential treatment and access. They maintained improper accounting decisions and essentially practices across the board, inconsistent with anything done by any other major corporation. They have terrible contract record keeping. Lots of things were conveniently lost along the way. And then, of course, the most sufficient thing, of course, is the entanglement that you mentioned right at the beginning of this segment, the entanglement between RCID and Disney, and just how bad that was. But the benefits that they were handing out to members of RCID was substantial and incredibly improper. So I look there. There's nothing they didn't do that was legal for the most part. So I mean, it's rather extensive. Every time we go through one little element, I mean, you have a use of the American Express card by the district administrator. That
inappropriate.
Well, yeah, it's insane. And I mean, like I said, there was a lot of issues with how they went about getting bids. That would be terribly improper and self-dealing. I think I've mentioned before, and this is well before this report came out, that Disney actually has its own construction company. So they would pay themselves to do the work
from public funds.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same problem was with the bond issuance, right? I mean, you just consider that they actually controlled essentially a municipality that would get bonds funded, and bondholders like that because they knew they were going to get their money back. But at the same time, none of the stuff was being done above board. All those bonds still exist. I mean, the ones that are still outstanding. And they paid $70 million for a non-functional power plant. I mean, it's just, there's so much here. $70 million for Reedy Creek Energy Services.
Was it clean energy culture?
Well, no, actually, that's a steam power plant, which means it was either coal-fired or gas-fired, probably gas, right?
Wow.
And then they can't even prove that they are actually getting solar energy from the two other outside sources that they've co-produced a couple of 2,000 acres of a solar farm. They can't even prove that the energy comes from there because it would have to be distributed through the grid. The only
they even paid property taxes of the people on the board.
Exactly. Yeah. For the houses that they allowed them to lease, which were just trailers on a cul-de-sac. I mean, this is two areas that just I can't even begin to say. I mean, they had at one point in time they had a private airport, but that was only for a short period of time. And it only was for small planes and primarily for the initial assembly of Disney World, the Magic Kingdom. But regardless, there was so much stuff being done there that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy. So
sounds like corporate mafia.
Yeah.
The 1967 Act of establishing the Reedy Creek District thing is fundamentally flawed, said Donald Cochan of George Mason University's Antonin Scalia Law School at the meeting, citing a lack of adequate safeguards, obviously, and no self-correcting mechanism.
No.
And all these blind people just go, no, Disney deserves it. It's their right to get it. No, it's not. It's not their right. They don't deserve
if you look at down in the comments, you have like the Hollywood people, and they are basically commenting, no, this is Disney's right. And eventually it's going to go back to how it used to be, which is how it should be. So you absolutely do have a lot of pixie dusters out there who think that this is pure political campaign. But as we see here, no, obviously it doesn't. It is not. It is absolute malfeasance here.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing. So when they go to build a building, a hotel, an attraction, whatever, back when it was Reedy Creek, you know what they didn't have? The same thing that everybody else had. They had public access of public records to what the building plans were, all kinds of things. And they didn't have anybody to look out for them because they controlled their own comptroller. And mind you, I'm sure all their construction methods and everything else are top notch, but at the same time, they didn't go through an extensive, process in order to get things built there. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's other shareholders, right? There's stockholder Ancora Holdings chimed in on this. and said a degree of shareholder-driven change is certainly warranted in Disney's boardroom following an extended period of absent-minded governance.
Yeah.
That is the poor governance that we were experiencing in this district. Disney controlled the old Reedy Creek board. That's a stockholder of Disney. And so it's trickle-down effect, as the shareholders of Disney currently recognize there is a leadership problem there, and that trickled down to the old board of Reedy Creek.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe they're saying the things that we said on official documents now.
Yeah.
Go on, Andre. I know you want to chime in, bud.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very glad that this is getting out there, because that means that, exactly as Andrew said in our stream yesterday, this is just the beginning. But what I see here is that Hollywood is very, very afraid of touching this. I will credit Deadline Hollywood for putting this story up there. But you'll note that they are mostly just quoting others. And they are doing it because they kind of have to, because it's important news. I haven't seen too many of the other trades doing it, which only tells me that this thing right here, this is going to be a big thing in culture. This is a cultural fight that is shaping up right here. Just look at the complete and total silence in Hollywood and the entertainment media complex. If there was any kind of like free press or freedom of thought or anything like that, this needed to be the top story across the board. Can you imagine for a second if the roles had been reversed and this had been, say, for instance, the Daily Wire, which also has operations in Florida? Just imagine
round the clock
here. Had received this kind of scrutiny, and the state of Florida had come down on the Daily Wire the way that they're doing on Disney right now, and there were similar revelations, obviously adjusted for scope.
I'll do a better one yet, Andre. Let's just say to them, just look them in the face and go, what if it was Trump?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this is the equivalent of it, right? Trump is not in entertainment, but the closest thing to it would be the Daily Wire. And if that had been the case, the entertainment media press, they would have been on this. This would have gotten like 5 stories in all of the major trades. As it is, I had to look for this in Deadline Hollywood. I haven't seen anything in Variety. I haven't seen anything in the Hollywood Reporter. I'm sure it's going to come eventually. But this tells me that they are deathly afraid of this. They do not want to do anything to upset the narrative. And looking at the comments in this Deadline Hollywood article, there you get to see the Hollywood chills and the mindset. And they're all for Disney. And they're like, DeSantis need to be in a jail cell next to Trump. So basically, they are in a complete mindset of their own. They do not live in our reality, and neither does their trade. But unfortunately for Disney, they are in Florida. They are under scrutiny in Florida. You have the whole RICO Act that's going to probably emerge here at some point. This is going to get ugly. And what is even more ugly about it is that there is not sufficient agreement of how ugly this is. When you have so many that are going to take a political side here, namely Disney are on our side, so they can't have done anything wrong. Whereas Florida, they're the evil people on the other side, so they must be in the wrong here. So Bob Iger saying that, we're gonna go out of like political topics and the political conversation. I'm very sorry to disappoint him, but it's no longer about the content. Now the company itself is going to be a major part of the cultural conflict going forward. And the legal side of things is very clear here. They are guilty. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But then
basically where they're at right now,
the pixie dusters.
I was going to say, where they're at right now is I think they're deciding on what kind of criminal charges will go forward, if any. But that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mad.
And even look at the headline in Deadline Hollywood. Ron DeSantis appointed board. You see there?
And
there you have the
We
angle.
predicted that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean. This is the narrative in Hollywood. They are going all out to protect Disney. And Deadline Hollywood is even implying that these are, pun intended, trumped up charges by Ron DeSantis. So they're going to continue with this defense that they're being punished for using their freedom of speech. That has been their chosen defense so far, and they're going to continue to do it. They know that it's bullshit, but at this point, it's about keeping the support of the pixie dusters. And they're going to continue to polarize, and they're going to, they're going to be like one of the...
Because it's not really a matter of freedom of speech, right? Like, that's the bigger thing here. The problem is they're obfuscating what Reedy Creek is, or where Reedy Creek ends and where Disney begins. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And Bob has done this to him publicly. He has publicly said these things, which has made him legally liable now. Like, this is where, people have asked us before, where there could be this, that, the other. This is the closest we've ever come to a point where I joked, 6 months ago, this whole thing could end with Bob Iger being let out of the Magic Kingdom in fucking handcuffs. We're getting closer and fucking closer to that right now.
We actually are, yeah.
Will anybody actually do any time? Probably not. It's going to be a lot of fines and shit thrown out there. Like, look at the whole Madoff situation. He's the only one I think who got anything out of that. A lot of these times before, when these big companies do this shit, there's always shit they can hide behind, and they'll try and probably blame this on, they'll try and go all the way to back to
some of the guilty people of that honestly needed to be put to death for what they did to the world economy. And really, they needed to be executed.
They're trying to pretend already that.
I think we should tone our language down just a little bit for my channel's sake, if that's all right, maybe.
They should have been given a good lashing.
Well, regardless, for the 900 people here, you're going to hear more about this story for a long time because we won't let it go.
Massively.
Yeah.
Nick, we haven't heard from you, chap. You want to jump in on this?
Oh, I think it's freaking despicable of Disney. It's like a revolving door of money within the company. It's all stays in house. They all pay each other. Everybody's collecting. The outside world's all dumping money into it, and then they just rotate the money around to themselves. It's a complete joke.
That's what they were doing, Nick. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with what Tom was saying 100%. These people should definitely be let off in handcuffs and do some serious jail time or have some sort of punishment, but nothing will probably ever happen to this. They might get a slap on the wrist or something, maybe at most. But I would love to be wrong about that and love to see some of these people do some hard time. And
there's one problem though, and that is this is something that has been going on for decades. I mean, it's like three generations of Disney executives are responsible for this. So basically, the excuse that everyone from Iger and down can hide behind this. I didn't know. We've always done things this way. This is the way I thought we was taught to do things. I had no way of knowing that this was wrong because this was handed down to me by my predecessor. This is how I was trained. Go and arrest him. Oh, he's dead. Oh, well, that's too bad because that's how they're going to do. Because you basically, you can.
They're going to try and blame it on Walt.
Back 50, 60 years on this now.
Unbelievable.
That's what I was going to say. Is like they're going to try and blame it on Walt, but we have here at least some evidence that a lot of this stuff happened after Walt was dead. So that's the thing they're not going to have a defense for. Yeah. But they also don't have a defense for a lot of it saying, well, I didn't know because it's not true. You didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just because you didn't start the crime does not mean you're continuing the crime. And this is what Andrew was saying from Legal Mindset on our show yesterday.
Ignorance isn't a defense.
No. Well, not just that. Is like the fact that they continue to do these things, even knowing that they're bad or wrong. That's the whole point. And the obfuscation of the Reedy Creek District and Disney the whole time. That's part of the problem. It's not even about the fact anymore that they didn't carry through what Walt initially had promised to in the first place. Like that's almost like a small problem compared to the shit they're uncovering with this, right? Like you have so many things going on here that it shouldn't be. You have employees of Disney that shouldn't be employees of Disney. People benefiting from Disney that shouldn't be benefiting from Disney. You have them basically using this city as their own, district to do whatever the hell they want. And that's why they're panicking and freaking out, because they don't have that anymore.
Yeah. And let me add one other thing. I've been in corporate America for over 20 years, and I can say from firsthand knowledge and experience that companies do this all the time, as far as blame the person that's not here anymore. Blame the last guy that was here last, that's no longer here.
I reckon they'll try and blame Chapek.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This will all be.
We hope they do.
Yeah.
We hope they do, because guess why, Mr. H? That would be the dumbest thing they could ever do, because that would then make it to where whatever NDA he signed, you can toss that right out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and a lot of people didn't realize just how powerful Reedy Creek was. But everything, including down to the nuclear fission reactor thing that people thought was a joke or an over-exaggeration or hyperbole, that actually falls within the original act for Reedy Creek, that they could do that, operate an airport. You name it. It's bonkers that this was essentially supposed to be a municipality that Disney actually resided within, not that they controlled. But
I can't believe that they didn't make a nuclear power plant.
Would have been smart, right?
I mean, I would. I'm serious. I would have done that, because not only would they be completely off the grid, that way they could sell power to Florida for extra money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. It's unbelievable that they didn't do it.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. So we're going to follow this like a hawk, but we do have to shuffle on now briefly.